I am really late podcasting because I had to go and buy a suitcase. But looking at these, I don't know why I bothered. I had two perfectly good ones right here. Welcome to the podcast. Hello and welcome to episode 4 and a bit of the Project Bag podcast. A podcast about living the craftiest life possible, making all the things and general nonsense. My name's Gemma and as always I come to you from my home in Kent where I live with my husband and our two adorable cats Archie and Kit 9. We're calling this episode 4 and a bit because I can't call it episode 5 because every time I say episode 5 I want to hold my hand up to say episode 5 and my camera does this really weird thing where when I do that and hold my hand up to say episode 5, I'm trying not to do it, I don't want it to notice. No, I think we've got away with it. It does this weird circle thing, like a pie chart filling in, and it goes round, and then it takes a photo. We don't want that. We don't need photos of me. We need to, although if they were like Harry Potter photos, that would be cool, wasn't it? I just sort of, sidle off screen. Can you tell it's been a long day? I have tried to hide the bags under my eyes, but this is my podcast. We are not an Instagram worthy podcast. It's real. And warts and all, nonsense and all, and we're off to a great start because I haven't even told you where you can find me yet. All right, okay, so told you it's a podcast. I've welcomed you to the podcast. I've scared at least 10 of you off already with the nonsense. Shared with you my amazing technological discovery. I mean, wow, who knew cameras could do that? It's also a bit creepy. I mean, what else can my phone do that I just don't know about? Ooh. Anyway, before I get into the whole artificial intelligence paranoia debate thing, let's start talking about where you can find me. If you so choose, having just said I don't live an Instagram-worthy life, if you wanted to follow me on Instagram, you're more than welcome to. I am the Project Bag with some underscores on Instagram. I also have a very active Facebook page, also the Project Bag, or if you type in the Project Bag, it's rather nifty, it tags me. Attached to that there is a lovely and supportive and friendly and warm social group called the Project Bag Club because I'm inventive like that. There are some lovely people in there sharing all their crafty stuff. Just last week I saw some amazing crochet doilies. We've got some beautiful people in there who are answering a call to knit bonding squares for a neonatal unit in London. And we of course have the Feels Like Summer Cal going on, which actually, as I say this, I realise that when this goes live in the morning and you start watching it, the Cal will be closed and I will be at the point where I will be drawing winners. I'm not going to obviously be drawing a winner now because A, it's not finished. There's still one more day, so get those works in progress finished, get those crafty bits in the post. When I say in the post, I don't mean in the post to me, don't send them to me, although if you want to send crafty bits to me, I certainly won't complain, that'd be cool. No, I mean put them on the post on the Facebook group page, where it's pinned to the top, there's a little drawing pin thing, and if you look at it you'll see underneath some comments with pictures that people have put on of things they've made. So get your crafty projects on that post by tomorrow at 10 p.m, which is today at 10 p.m. So actually it's not closed by the time you're watching this, is it? Well, I suppose it depends when you're watching it. If you're watching it before 10 p.m, then it's still open. And if you're not, shall I start this bit again? I think I need a sip of coffee and I'll start this bit again. I'm just going to cut. Okay, so I've got my coffee and I've just watched that back and it's not quite as garbled as I thought it was. So I'm not going to start again. What I'm going to do is just try and clear up ever so quickly what I meant. I'm recording this podcast on Thursday the 30th of August. It will be going live tomorrow, which could be today for you, depending how quickly you watch the podcast. Tying myself up in knots again here. The 31st of August, which is the day that the knit craft along closes. Oh, this was meant to be clearer. I'm recording on Thursday. The Feels Like Summercal finishes on Friday, so depending when you're watching this, it may already be closed because it ends at 10 p.m. on the 31st of August. So if you're watching this before it closes, then you've still got a bit of time. If not, tough luck. Try again next time. And I do actually have some craft alongs already planned for the winter, which I will tell you about in our bumper episode in a couple of weeks' time. And I will tell you more about that a bit later. Yeah. Okay, so that's that's what's going on in the Project Bag Club at the moment over on Facebook. We also have a Ravelry group because I'm learning how to use Ravelry, people, finally. The girls at my knitting group near my home have been talking about Ravelry for so long, and I'm finally getting to grips with it. I've learned how to upload photos. I haven't learned how to sort out my own stash yet, but I have learned how to raid other people's, which is great. So just at the moment, I'm trying to sort out a possible purchase of an amount of yarn that would make a boxy sweater in DK weight by Hohi Locatelli, which I'm really excited about. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. I feel I should give you some context. The reason I'm more nonsensical than usual is because A, I am sleep deprived. I'm not moaning, it's been a busy week, but it's been a busy week for good reasons. And B, this time tomorrow, so it's 6 o'clock now that I'm recording, which is really super late, but it's late because I've been super busy. This time tomorrow, Friday, I will be in North Wales for the very start of my epic 12 days away on a business / let's be honest, it's really a pleasure trip for all things crafty and yarny and exciting. So I'm a little bit hyped up. I have got so much to do. I have been working like the clappers to get things done, ready for things to roll out while I'm away. There's a blog post scheduled for Sunday already, which is amazing considering that I wrote last Sunday's one on the Sunday morning. And yeah, that was organised, wasn't it? I was sitting there drinking my cup of coffee on Sunday morning thinking, oh yes, oh what a lovely relaxed Sunday. Oh dear. My husband said to me he was worried about me spreading myself too thin, and I'm beginning to feel a little bit like Marge rather than butter at this point. So yeah. Anyway, so that's why I'm, if possible, even more hyped up and nonsensical than usual, because I'm really tired and I've been doing loads and I've got loads still to do, and I'm really excited about what the next 12 days have in store. But we're not going to get into that just yet. No, because I'm going to tell you the name of the Ravelry group, which is what I was talking about, and then, oh, have I got a show for you today. So the Ravelry group is, again, really inventive, the Project Bag podcast. There is an introduce yourself thread in there, which requires 2 truths and a lie. See if you can figure out what everyone's truth is. I will tell you that the person who guessed mine has guessed incorrectly, and I also guessed hers incorrectly. So wow, the things we're learning about each other, super exciting. And there are episode threads going on there as well, which is, again, very exciting. Everything's really exciting. I'm kind of like a bit like a puppy at the moment, I think, whose tail's wagging too much. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to wank myself off the sofa in a minute because everything's exciting. Yeah, I haven't felt this positive in quite some time, so I'm just going to embrace it. I'm going to own it. I'm going to enjoy it, and hopefully you enjoy coming along for this crazy ride with me today as well. Right, so favourite mug. I do actually have, it's a well balanced drunk has a drink in each hand, right? So what does this make me? Because they're not alcoholic. So what does this make me? Answers on a postcard. Pop them in the comments below. And thanks to those of you who helped sort out my mug cup debate last week. That was helpful. Someone had the genius idea of, if my mug / cup has a saucer, then it's a cup, and if not, then it's a mug. So therefore my drinking vessel is a mug. Yeah. So there we are. I actually have two. I have this one, which says, I love this. Hooked on crochet, which was a gift from my mum, and that's quite fitting because we have crochet today. Yes, we do. We have crochet. And in this is a Red Bush vanilla Madagascan tea, which my husband kindly made for me. And I knew he made it because I asked him to make it. And then I promptly forgot he made it. I made myself a coffee. And a health warning for you guys, it is a caffeinated coffee this week. Clearly don't need it. Haven't even taken a sip yet, but there we are. I don't know if this hyperactivity is because I'm overtired or not. I mean, if it is because I'm overtired, then the coffee should balance me out in theory and things should calm down. But I don't know. And oh, I wish this was smell-o-vision, because what this is, it's pretend. It's not alcoholic, but it is one of the Tassimo Bailey's latte macchiato thingies. I don't know what a macchiato is. It's basically a coffee that smells of Irish cream. It's nice and milky and it's scrummy. And this, I don't tend to drink caffeine anymore, but after the week I've had, I kind of feel that I deserve it. So here we are in the Project Bag mug. For those of you that don't know, this is not just my podcast logo. I am the designer, maker and tutor behind the Project Bag. And as I speak, my first course is pretty much fully booked up, which is starting on the 16th of September in Maidstone in Kent at Esquire's coffee shop, which is really, really exciting. And I'm hoping that I'm not scaring all my students off now. What can I say, ladies? We are going to have such a ball. It is going to be so much fun. So there we are. So I've got my two drinks and I have some. And we'll see if that calms me down or not. I have it, and I shared this on my Facebook page and also blog a while ago, on this beautiful, oh wow, there you get an idea of it. Now I can't remember what his name for this particular type of slate is. I will put it here. But do you see that? Look at those colours. Oh God, Craig, I have got to let you know I'm doing this. Craig Daniels is the maker behind Drift Moods. See that? Is that focusing? There we go. I think so. In Cockington, in Torquay, in Devon. But Cockington's become one of my favourite places. It's got amazing craft space down there. I've written a blog post all about it. The blog is theprojectbag.co.uk, so you can find me there as well. And when we were down there last, I had the idea, I'm actually really shy. You probably don't know this, and I certainly probably don't come across like it on the podcast, but let's face it, although you're all there and I know you're watching, which actually sounds really creepy, I'm just talking to a camera at this point, so it's not actually as intimidating as if there was, 40 odd of you in a room, because I now have over 40 subscribers. Wow, thank you. That's amazing. That's bigger than any class I ever taught. So officially in sort of personal record breaking audience numbers here, but it's not as intimidating like that. So I was really shy, but Craig made me feel so at home and so relaxed. He was just such a great guy to talk to, and we learnt so much about his process. Do check out my blog, I talk all about it there, but I just had to show you this heart coaster. Now, this is slate. It's made by Craig, by hand. I'm not sure if this is, if this is recycled slate or not. Craig, if it is, then, maybe pop a comment. If it isn't, then pop a comment, because I know you do use recycled slate as well, reclaimed slate, which is just amazing. And what he does, he uses a guillotine and water, literally those simple tools, to create the shapes. And it's this perfect heart. Look at that. And he paints it. I'm not going to give away the secret sauce. In such a way that the paint interacts with the natural. Ooh, shiny. I'm losing what I'm saying because I'm just looking at the pretty. Sorry. With the natural texture of the slate. So every single piece that he does this with is different, is unique. And the paints itself comes, oh wow, comes in a variety of different colours as well. There's a bronze, there's one that's more green, there's one that's more sort of silver and grey in tones. I love this one, which is Ocean Wave, I think he calls it, and it's just, oh, it's beautiful. So, coffee cup on my beautiful slate coaster. Do check out the blog. So that's everything. That's all the places you can find me, and let's get on to the show itself, shall we? Because we're about 15 minutes in and I've just blathered at you. Getting ready now. This is... Focus, please. Ah. Right, so that was a scary close-up for you, wasn't it? I have finished objects. Yeah, that's plural. Not one, not two, but 6 finished objects. Oh yes, thank you very much. Whew. I promised you we wouldn't have finished objects every week, and we certainly won't, but this week, for whatever reason, I have 6 finished objects. I'm going to dive straight in with sewing this week for finished objects. I have got, for your viewing pleasure, 2 more gorgeous drawstring project bags. Here we are. This fabric was so popular last time, and I'd used it only for the contrast, that I thought I'd use it for the main colour. So we have a pink contrast bottom, matching pink handle. I mean, that matches really quite well. It certainly goes with the flowers in there. There is no drawstring at the moment. I've got to put one in yet. And a pink lining. It is padded and squidgy and squidgeable and rather gorgeous, and actually I'm becoming quite attached to this fabric as well, so I can see why you guys like it. That's finished object number 1. Finished object number 2, we have this gorgeous dark blue one, and oh, it's the blue version of the pink one I showed you last week, and it has a pink handle because it picks out the pink in the fabric, and I couldn't find a blue handle the right colour, and I didn't want to just put a pale blue one on. I thought it looked wishy-washy and ridiculous. So, and how fun is this? Look, buttons. I love a button. Oh, I've got a story to tell you about buttons, but that'll be for another day, because otherwise you'll be here for a year. So yeah, with my label there, and this gorgeous fabric, A Time to Sew, Craft and Draft, Time to Mend, So Many Patterns, So Little Time. I know that feeling. I'm just going to punch the bottom of this bag out. There we are. So box bottomed, both of them are, with a drawstring, or they will have a drawstring. They don't at the moment. Contrast, contrast, and this one is lined in this gorgeous navy blue, which I just love. So that is finished object number 2. All right, I promised you 3 finished objects for sewing, but before I do, I just want to talk about these project bags a little bit more. A couple of weeks ago, I showed you a project bag which I was sending up to Scotland to raise money for the Aberdeen Neonatal Intensive Care Unit. A very lovely lady called Beth, whose son had spent 4 days in NICU, and got his happy ending. He's home, growing beautifully, strapping lad, really smiley. I've seen some lovely pictures of him. Thank you, Beth, for sharing that with me. She wanted to do something to give back, and she asked me if I would donate a bag, and I was more than happy to, and I am happy to report that Beth did an amazing job, and my bag, along with the other bits and pieces that she sourced from other makers for the raffle, raised over £700. That is amazing, so a massive well done to you, Beth. Okay, so I've just realised I haven't snipped off any of the ends here. I was so triumphant. You might have seen on my Insta stories the other day that I was trying my hand at hemming, because I have finished finally, and I know the person who taught me to make this is going to be like, oh, about blooming time. I have finished my very first me-made skirt. Woohoo! Look at that fabric. It really is that pink. And people who know me know I'm not really a pink person, or at least I wasn't, but wow. I saw this very fine needle cord, so it is corduroy, but it's very fine, in John Lewis, focus, thank you, in John Lewis, God, it must be coming up for 2 years ago now. My dad very kindly said, oh, I'll buy you the fabric, I'll buy you what you need to make a skirt. That'll be your Christmas present. And obviously, you know, we're still 4 months away from Christmas nearly. And I didn't actually start making this until the next spring. In fact, it may be worse than that. It may have been a year after that. So a Christmas and the next spring. And my lovely, lovely friend very kindly said that she would teach me how to sew. And it's her that I've got to thank for these bags even being here in the first place. Because if she hadn't shown me my way around my sewing machine, then I wouldn't be doing this now, which is just amazing. And she agreed to teach me how to sew. By this point, I had lost the pattern I'd bought for the fabric. But she has an amazing fabric and pattern stash herself. So she managed to find me a pattern, a skirt pattern that she thought would flatter me, and she taught me how to do it, which was great. It took a long time, but it was so much fun. Our first sewing Sunday, as we nicknamed it, I actually ended up being there for nearly 10 hours. It was pitch black by the time I left. I couldn't believe it, but I had so much fun and learnt so much, and I don't think, I mean, it's the sort of thing my friend really enjoys as well. I don't think even she realised how far the time was going, and it was really cool. So the skirt is, now I'm going to talk to you about this. You might think, oh, your skirt's wonky. It's not. Well, it is, but it's not, and I'll explain why. So anyway, it's this lovely needle cord. And she taught me so much about things like pattern matching. Can you see where the yoke is attached from there? Now, see, I'm looking at it on the screen now, and I can't see. Look. You see it there now? Look, there you go, there's that line. She taught me about pattern matching and seam allowance. So from a distance, it looks completely flawless, which is just amazing. I was so proud of myself. How cool is that? So pleased. I mean, you can see it there because, for obvious reasons, because of this, and this is what I'm going to talk to you about in a minute. But we didn't start with this. We started by making, I think it's a twirl. It might not be a twirl, but I'm calling it a twirl, which is where we got some, I think it was calico we used, just a plain cream fabric, and we made the pattern up. So we kind of drew it out, marked it out onto the fabric so we could use the pattern pieces again, and cut it out. She showed me how to sew it all together and put it on, and then she pinned it in various places and showed me how to adjust the fit so the skirt would fit my particular body shape as well. And I've got quite a steep sort of curve in my back, so my back goes in and then my butt comes out like a mile, you know, it's ridiculous. And that meant that obviously the fit wasn't quite right. It's terrible. I find it really difficult to buy jeans because to get them over my butt, they then have sort of like that much gapping at the back of the waistband, and it's not flattering. And it was pretty much the same with this because it is a yoked waistband. It's obviously folded over, reinforced, interfaced. So yeah, she pinned it and she put darts in, and we adjusted this twirl. So now what I've got is this calico twirl, which we then unpieced and laid over this fabric to cut out my very own personal pattern. And that twirl now fits me perfectly. That is my skirt, which is wonderful. So I can make it in as many different fabrics as I want. It has been finished, apart from the hem, for... it must be coming up to a year. I wasn't very well last summer, towards the end of last summer, and also I gained a lot of weight because I wasn't very well. I was staying indoors, I wasn't leaving the house, I wasn't moving and exercising. I'm a big comfort eater. I gained pushing 2 stone, and this was before I fell pregnant. I worked to then lose a bit of weight, then the weight was creeping on again. I was like, what the blooming heck's happening here? Turns out I was pregnant. There we are. And I've just got so disenchanted when I went for a sewing Sunday and realised this would no longer do up, that we just sort of left it at that. But everything was done apart from the hemming. So I tried hemming all by myself without her help last night. And I'll be honest, I eyeballed it. I knew that the skirt was curved and followed a curve. and I did pretty much eyeball it, so it's probably not 100% accurate, but I don't think that looks too bad, do you? It's serged already. She serged it on her overlocker for me when we were doing our Sewing Sunday, and the same for the lining. I deliberately did the lining a little bit higher because I was a bit worried, a little bit deeper of a hem because I was a bit worried about it showing. So yeah, that's why, because of my big gap in my back, because of my big dip, that's why it looks when I hold it up like the back is longer than the front. Or because it is longer than front, but when it's on me, the hem then sits evenly all the way around. It's just amazing. Now, it's bad enough with our boob reviews on this show when I sit up to show you my knitwear. I'm not about to put this skirt on and stand up, because you'll just end up with my butt in your face, and that's not pleasant. You don't need that on a Friday night or a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning or whenever it is you're watching this. So I will try and insert some photos here so you can see me wearing the skirt and see how it fits. Right, that takes me on to knitting finished objects, of which I have 3. And in fact, I'm lying because I have 2 knit and 1 crochet, and I'm going to start with the crochet. Kay Litton, aka the Crazy Sock Lady, started this thing called Scrappy Sunday, and it's where she sets Sundays aside to just chill out with her knitting or crochet and work on her scrappy projects. Now that sounds really naff. Just checking it's focusing. Ooh, I'm moving too much. I need to sit still. Drinking this coffee has not helped. Yeah, here it is. Here's this, and basically the idea of a scrappy project, it's not as naff as it sounds. It's where you use up your leftover yarns, which can be really, really pretty yarns, and you've got sort of like 20 grams of something left, and it's not enough to make a whole project with. So what you do, you put them all together. This kind of started with Kemper Wray, who designed the Cozy Memories blanket. I'll put the name here and a link in the down bar for the Ravelry page where you can get the pattern. I think it's a paid for pattern. And the idea is you knit mitered squares together in strips, and you're effectively creating a patchwork quilt, if you like, effect of these yarns that you've used. And they're cozy memories because the yarns remind you of the original projects you knit or crocheted or whatevered. And it's cozy because obviously it's a blanket that you can snuggle under, and it's fun because you've got so many different colours and textures, and you've got all those yarns that you love all in one place. The next thing that happened was podcasters discovered Attic 24's Granny Striped Blanket. Again, name here, link down there. Now that is free on Attic 24's blog. She's a Stylecraft blog star. She's also the designer of the ripple patterns that I've used to make my Niku blankets. And that kind of took the world by storm. And then people have discovered the corner to corner blanket, which is a whole nother thing. Anyway, Kay's got several of these things on the go, several different ways of using up her scrap yarn, her leftovers, and she set aside Sundays to work on those. And I thought that's a really lovely idea. So I dug out my granny square blankets and I cheated a bit. I didn't like the idea of putting loads of different colours in here. So I gathered all my spare yarns into kind of colour families. So this is blues and yellows and creams and things that remind you of the beach perhaps, or the sea. I've got the same going on here in a corner to corner version. So I basically did a couple of rounds on the granny square, and when I didn't have enough to go around the granny square anymore, I put them in here. So 2 versions of the same thing effectively. That's corner to corner. I'll talk about that another time because I haven't worked on that, so it's not going in whips. And I was just inspired for Stash Dash to finish it off. And actually, this is not for me. This is going to someone who I really, really care about, who is expecting a little boy very soon. And I was making it and I just thought, you know what, this will be perfect. I was knitting in the park when we were all in the park together in the summer. Our friends and their daughter, and they have nicknamed Baby Bump Baby Plum, and the daughter, who's 2 coming up 3, was sat came and sat beside me and asked what I was doing, and her mum explained that I was knitting, because she's a knitter as well. She started off by knitting a scarf with black yarn. But yeah, she's an amazing knitter. She's brilliant. She far exceeds me, to be honest with you. And then the little girl said, is it for baby Plum? And actually the answer was no, it was not for baby Plum. It was the gradient garter stitch blanket that I showed you that I did for my husband's work colleague's daughter, who'd been born. She was due around the same time as Lara. And I said to her, would you like me to knit something for baby Plum? And she said, yes. And I said, okay, what colour shall I knit for baby Plum? And she sort of thought about it and went, blue. And as I was finishing this off, I thought, well, do you know what? I know it's not knit, it's crochet. And I know it's not just blue, but what lovely, lovely colours. And for a baby going to be born at the back end of summer, if we have one of these Indian summers that we've been promised, I think that'd be really nice. So yeah, and I've just finished it in this beautiful, vibrant blue with double crochets just going around, just 1 round. I didn't think it needed more than that. And I've done 8 in the corner just to get me around the corner nicely so it doesn't pull in. As you can see, ends not woven in, but what do you expect? Come on, ends are not going to be woven in. So that's that finished. Beautiful, apart from ends woven in. And actually I don't know if the friend in question watches the podcast. Surprise! If you do, you know what's coming your way. There will be more surprises, don't worry. And then I have got my test knits off the needles. Woohoo! So let's start by talking about the Wicker Park scarf. Here we are. And it goes on and on and on. And it's long, long, long. I just love this. I talked about this last time, the shaping. I just think that's amazing. And it just looks great on. And I finished it in the teal, and doesn't the teal look good? And it's called Tullameen. I've got no idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Tullameen is the name given to it by the brand that wasn't on the ball band. I mean, why would you name something and not put it on the ball band? Why make us all say, this is colourway number 0132? I don't know if that's colourway, by the way. I've just made that up. I mean, I don't have a head for numbers. I mean, I've struggled to learn my own mobile number. I actually gave it to someone quite important incorrectly and then had a bit of a grumble at them, and it was my fault. So here we go. I love it. I love it. I am going up to the north of England, and I'm going to Scotland very soon as part of this trip that I'm going to talk to you about in a bit. And this is just going to be so scrummy. I mean, just look at it. I love the colours. I think they go really well together. And I love the way it hangs. And I'm going to stand up so you can see how nicely that hangs there down to a point on either side. And I've done it really messily because I've just sort of thrown it around myself. Anyone watch Doc Martin? I just reminded myself of the pharmacist from Doc Martin. I went, oh, hello. For those people who don't know, perhaps my American viewers, Doc Martin is a television series set in Port Isaac in Cornwall with Martin Clunes, who plays the doctor, and he's not very good with people. I mean, he's catastrophically bad with people, actually, for a doctor. It's not to say he doesn't care very much. He wants to fix them, but it's, you know, what's the problem? Fix it, like computers. But anyway, it's comedy, it's light-hearted. I don't know if it's finished now, never coming back, but there's a pharmacist who constantly wears this neck brace, and that, the way I've just done that reminds me of a neck brace. But I mean, just look at the way you can wear it. I'm just throwing this on now, but the chunky yarn has got, see, now it looks like a roll neck. I mean, wouldn't that look lovely underneath a coat? Again, I'm looking at the knit and not at you, so rude. But I can't help it. Look at that colour. The yarn is, I think, 70% acrylic, 20% wool, 10% alpaca. The alpaca gives it this delicious face smoosh. The wool gives it just a hint of rusticness. And I love the colours. So it's teddy bear, cream. Well, actually, it might not be called teddy bear. That might be the other yarn. Anyway, it's a kind of teddy bear brown, a lovely cream, and tourmaline. There we are. So this is by Erin, who goes by Lizzy Knits on Ravelry and Instagram, and the pattern is now available. So get over there, get yourself a copy of the pattern. It is such a speedy knit. Spoiler alert, people are getting this for Christmas this year, because I mean it's not just because it's fast, and actually in a commercial yarn it's incredibly cheap to make as well. I mean, I think this didn't even use 3 balls of the yarn, so it's probably around about a £5 to make, and just a couple of evenings sat in front of the telly knitting. I just love it. It's pale. This one, I don't know. I kind of want to keep it for me, but we'll see how many I manage to make. If I wear it when I go away, then obviously I'll keep it. I don't, you know, wear things and then give them to people. That's just a bit, you know, certainly not unless they know. I love the way the colours blend. I love the transition. I think she's very clever the way she's done that. But yeah, definitely Lizzy Knits on Instagram, on Ravelry. Go and get yourself a pattern. If you are like me, a last minute Larry, and are one of these people that's frantically knitting or crafting away on Christmas Eve to give things to people on Christmas Day, amazing pattern. And it's just, oh, it's just so squidgy. So squidgy. Love it. Okay, my pile of sort of finished objects is piling up quite nicely here. I also have the Sattler cardie finished. Woohoo! Yay! Oh, I had the most epic game of yarn chicken. I'll tell you a bit about that in a sec. So this is by Emily Walton, designing for Expression Fibre Arts, which is an American yarn dyer and designer. And I'm going to chuck it on over this dress, because I did yesterday when I went to Knit and Natter, and everyone said, well, that actually goes really well with that dress. It is a hooded cardie. It does not do up over the front, although actually I've done it at such a loose gauge it probably could. I'm just going to put you back there. Okay, off you go. All right, steady, good. Ah, there we are, look. And there you go. Yeah, so it's not designed to do up. I mean, I could, if I wanted, if I was really cold, I could stretch it over me, but it's not designed to. It's designed to just hang. It comes down to pretty much my butt. It wasn't going to sit under my jeans pockets. Sorry, it looks like I'm fondling my own buttocks there. I'm not, I promise. But if you imagine where your jeans pockets would be, I didn't want to ruin this yarn by sitting on it. So there we are. Yeah. There we go. And it's sleeveless, and it's ever so clever. It's got this mock I-cord edging here. So it's not an applied edging at all. It's done as you're knitting it, and it has this nice roll. So there's no finishing really required at all. I think there should have been some under the arms, but I was calling it done by that point. Plus I wanted it cast off in time for it to count for stash dash. And if I sit, you can see it's hooded as well, and I just love it. I love the drape of it. The pattern is released in lace weight yarn. I've done this in 4-ply, also known as fingering weight or sock yarn, however you want to call it. And I just think it's fabulous. I think the drape is really good. It's really comfy. It's really warm. The Game of Yarn Chicken tells me I did the medium size, but I also cut off 2 inches of the body so that it wasn't hanging too low down past my bum, for the reasons I've just said about not wanting to damage it by sitting on it. I mean, there is cashmere in this particular yarn I've used, and cashmere pills, by which I mean it goes bobbly. So if you've ever had jumpers from shops and you found them going bobbly under the arms, so say where your arms move against the body of the jumper, then that's what that is. It's called pilling. And it's to do with staple length. I won't get into all that now. Well, that's a chat for another time. But I didn't want it to do that. So I cut off 2 inches from the length, and I still played such an epic game of yarn chicken that it would definitely require 3 skeins of this 4-ply. So each skein is 425 meters. It would require 3 of those, not full, but you would be breaking into it. And I think actually even for the smallest size, you would want the 3rd skein just to be comfortable, especially if you were doing the full length, which is 17.5 inches up to here. So not from here to here, from the bottom to here. because I had to do a bit of fandangling. You might have seen, come back, ooh, hello. Hiya, you might have seen on my Instagram I was playing an epic game of Yarn Chicken. I mean, it was a battle of wills. It was a battle to the end, I tell you. I ended up unpicking my tension squares, which I showed you on that green board, and did the whole thing about blocking tension squares so that I could complete the hood, because I was at risk of having a hood that I could not put over my head. Now, I'm not going to put this hood over my head because I've got this going on and I look very odd. But what I'll show you, can you see the line? Yeah, you can, look. Do you see the line in the knitting where it changes about here? So underneath, it's all nice and smooth stockinette. Here, it's proper kinky, properly kinky. And what that is, it's because I unknit it and knit it straight away back into the hood. I am told that washing and blocking this will relax the kink and it should look okay. I'm not too worried because I very much doubt I'd ever have the hood up anyway, and where it's hanging down my back, I think it looks quite nice. The other thing I did, so as well as the modification, as well as nearly running out of yarn, as well as the modification on the body length, was I grafted the shoulders together inside out. You use a 3 needle bind. See, I told you it's not Instagram worthy, didn't I? You use a 3 needle bind off for this, which basically means that you hold the 2 sewn panels together and then you knit through both stitches. You have one, so you would effectively hold them one behind the other with I've got to hold it down there, with stitches on, so both of those have stitches on, and then you use your other needle and knit both of those as one, so one from the front, one from the back, but knit them at the same time, and you then cast those off as you go, so you are grafting them together effectively. And what I managed to do was I managed to do it so that the ridge ended up on the outside of my cardigan. But I did it on both sides, so I've decided I like that. I'm owning that. It's a little bit of edginess on an otherwise quite smooth garment. So that is the Sattler Cardi, which I believe is available very shortly. I will put the information down here for you. And the yarn is Juno Fibre Arts Merino Cashmere Nylon, 4-ply sock weight yarn, and it's a beautiful tonal, it's called Oyster, but it's tonal with kind of creams and beiges and dusky colours, which I love. On to works in progress. Okay, well, this will be interesting because it's taken me so long to get to this point in the podcast because of, not that you'll know this, but I've had phone calls and things like that in the middle of it, which took some time. It's actually getting dark outside, so it'll be really interesting to see what the lighting does now for the rest of the podcast. Do let me know what you think. If you hate it, then let me know, because obviously as we move into winter, it's going to start getting dark by as early as 3. Some nights it could get dark by. So yeah, your feedback would be amazing because it can help me prepare and plan for a much smoother podcast in the future. My Calypso cardigan. Here we are. I have cast off the back. Woohoo! It looks really narrow, but it's, I don't know if you remember what I said about stockinette. It wants to roll in, and that's exactly what it's doing. So all this portion here has rolled in. If I unfold that, you see, it's a good few inches. Now, it's not just plain stockinette on the back up to the armholes. It's actually got this ribbed section as well, not that it looks particularly ribbed. And that just means it will have this nice ribbed panel up the side when you sew it together. When I sew it together, not you. Although if anyone wants to sew it together for me, let me know. I hate sewing together. Ooh. It's like the back stitch on a cross stitch. You just want to be done, but it really finishes it. And obviously this would be unwearable if I hadn't sewn it together. So yeah, it really does finish it. I sorted out the yarn bath from last week, and can we just talk about this? This was a little cheer you up from a really good friend of mine. It was from Myra, who I've spoken about before. How pretty is this? Just a little stitch marker, blue and sparkly, and it goes so beautifully with this, and it just makes me smile every time I look at it. And this is what I'm talking about, the difference between this and a naked stitch marker. I've had some comments about those actually. It just makes you smile to see it hanging on there, and I put it on there because I lost count from here so many times to get to 55. So I put it on there and I knew I had 15 left to go. So there we are. So that's the back done. I've done the shoulder shaping. Now what's really interesting is the middle stitches are currently on waste yarn, but it's in the same colour, so that makes it awkward, but it's on waste yarn. What's really interesting here, and I can't work out quite how it's going to work, is you've got the shoulder shaping, but there's like a knit two together there as well, so there's like a gap between the two bits. I'm not doing a very good job of showing this to you because it's rolling over so much, but I'll talk to you later about how that works. So yeah, the back is done, so it's getting there. I'm hoping that maybe I'll have the front done by the time I come back from my trip. I'm kind of setting myself a tentative deadline of October to get this done by, like the 1st of October, so that gives me another month. And considering I knit that in just a couple of weeks, I think I should be able to do this in a month, having already got the back done. So I'm about to cast on for the fronts of the cardigans, cardigan, 2 fronts, and they should be really nice and quick. So that's really motivational, because rather than a broad panel of stockinette, you've got narrow ones and you kind of see the progress more. I mean, obviously it's the same number of stitches, same amount of time, but it feels faster. Next whip, I now have to put a spoiler alert on the screen. Spoiler alert, klaxon. I am about to talk about the Sweet Georgia Mystery Shawl Knit Along, the Tullameen shawl, which was cast on August the 28th. Clue 1 was released. If you think you might want to knit this shawl and keep it a mystery, then I would advise you to skip ahead. I will put the timestamp on the screen right now, because I don't know what time it will be at the moment because I haven't talked about it yet. So there we are, that timestamp there. Skip ahead, all right? Because I will be showing it. So are we completely clear? There's about to be a spoiler for Clue 1. Clue 1 has not quite been out for a whole week. Some people might not have cast it on. Look away now, skip to this timestamp if you don't want the spoilers. Okay, it's really exciting. I have not knit a shawl before. I know, it's like a knitting podcaster saying they've not knit socks, isn't it? Socks and shawls are like the staple for knitters. I have now knit socks, but I have not knit a shawl. So this is my first shawl and I don't know what it's going to look like. I also have never done a knit along officially like this, a timed knit along. And I have also never done a mystery knit along. And I have also never committed so much of my precious, treasured, hoarded, hand-dyed yarns to one project before. I was so stressing out about this. Tabitha, who is the design director for Sweet Georgia Yarns, which is a Canadian yarn company started by the lovely Felicia Lowe, who has the Taking Back Fridays podcast on a Friday, has designed this Tullameen shawl. And when you buy the pattern through Ravelry, it's released in updates. So I've had the pattern for a couple of months, pretty much since it was first mentioned, and all you get in the library at that point with the mystery knit along is a 1 page, or it was 2 pages for planning stages, and it tells you what to expect. So it tells you how much yarn it will take, it might give you some advice on gauge, it will tell you what needle sizes you require and how much yarn you require, so you can gather all your tools. And Tabitha had also put together some suggestions for colourways. So she said you want to start off with something darker and possibly more solid, and then move to something lighter, which could be lighter in the same colour family and a tone of the first colour, and then perhaps something even lighter, perhaps a speckle with something with barely any colour in it. And the main colour is the deeper one, the darker one. And I don't have any Sweet Georgia yarns. I covet Sweet Georgia yarns, but at the moment, to be perfectly honest, I'm not in a position to purchase any, and with the postage. It's definitely on my to-do list. I'm definitely saving up for some. But where I am at the minute, having just gone to Fibre East, it wasn't going to happen. But I do have some gorgeous indie dyed yarns in stash. Notably, Truly Hooked, who I've spoken about before. Verity is the amazing dye designer behind Truly Hooked, one of my favourite indie dyers. I was trying to put them together and I can't remember how it happened. I think Tabitha had commented on something I was doing or responded to a comment on the YouTube channel or something. I can't quite remember, but Tabitha herself had commented. And that made me brazen enough to tag her in a post where I showed 3 or 4 different colourways, which I'll flash here. Ding. And I put it up on my Instagram and I tagged Tabitha in it. I said, please help, you're the designer, you know what this shawl looks like, you'll be able to help me choose. And she picked the first option, which was great. I was happy with it. I chucked it out there to my Facebook followers as well, and the dyer of these yarns, Serenity, threw me a complete curveball, and she said, well, why don't you put Gamora with Mermaids Can Be Goths too, but put it with Radioactive. Isn't that amazing? That wasn't an option, and I didn't message Tabitha again and say, if this was an option, would this be okay? But I went for it. I thought, if I looked back at Tabitha's instructions again, and it had said use a kind of darker tone with a mid-tone or a contrast. Wow, that's green. That isn't blowing out. That is literally put your sunglasses on, highlighter green, what it's like. It's fabulous. So a lighter one. So although this is more solid and that's more sort of speckled and variegated, because that's darker, I thought that would look nice as a pop for the contrast colour, because this is the main colour. And then this as being contrast colour too. So those are, so this is Gamora, Radioactive, and Mermaids Can Be Goths too. I'll show you one at a time. These are all her standard sock. They are absolutely beautiful. They knit up stunningly. I will put pictures of them up as well, but here in the cake is Gamora. And again, I feel really mean showing you this because you can't get it, because it was a club colourway. It was a collaboration between Hutch of Dye Candy and Verity of Truly Hooked for Guardians of the Galaxy. And you've got the option, you've got the main colourway, which is a mystery. You don't know what you're going to get until you open the box. And Gamora was Verity's one, and I can't remember the name of Hutch's one. I'll try and find out. If I can find out, I'll put it here. But that became socks, which I will flash up on the screen now. Love them. And Radioactive was the semi-solid. You can opt to have a semi-solid colourway to go with it. So if you wanted to do a shawl project, you know, a 2-skein project, you'd have the coordinating one, or contrast heels and toes if you wanted, because I don't know how well you can see, but that green there, you see the green here is about here. Flashes of the green, so they do really go well together. So they're club colourways, you can't get them, but if ever there's an endorsement for signing up for a yarn club with mystery boxes, come on. Mermaids Can Be Goths too, which is just beautiful. And again, I'm actually going to, because you don't get the idea in the yarn cake, I'm going to flash you them in skein, and I'm going to show you them in balls. And I am also going to show you a little bit of footage I took when I was winding the skein on my lap. It might be footage, might be photographs, just to show you how the colours change in Mermaids Can Be Goths too, because it's just heavenly and I cannot wait to see how it knits up. So it's a 3-skein shawl. It is knit in the round, which I couldn't get my head around, and I still can't, because this is my first shawl. But looking at it now, please look away, all right? Look away if you don't want spoilers. This is your last warning. I am going to talk about it. I'm not going to give away the secret sauce. I'm just going to talk about my opinions of it so far and show you what I've done. So please look away if you do not want to know. I do not want to be the recipient of any complaints about the spoilers, and Felicia and Tabitha very kindly said that I can talk about it, but have begged me as well to make it clear that there are spoilers. So no complaints, please, people. Anyway, here we are. What I think is that it's going to be a pie-shaped shawl, but then it might not be. But here we are. There it is. So this is the gorgeous Mermaids Can Be Goths too. And you can see these delicate rays of lace here with my stitch markers. I'm using simple ring stitch markers because I don't want them to get in the way of me being able to see what I'm doing, because I've not done lace before like this. And then I have a different coloured one here, and that marks the beginning of the round, so I know where to start. And it is growing, it's growing outwards. I have not finished clue 1 yet. I am, oh, that's weird seeing my face behind it. I am only halfway through clue 1. It gets to about 280 stitches, I think, before it's finished. But I am going to get this finished before clue 2 comes out next week. There are 5 clues and they come out on a week by week basis. So this is my main colour, my starting colour, and I'm already in love with it. I mean, I know it's a bit speckly and I know I'm running the risk of the lace getting a bit lost. But so far, I'm really pleased with that. And the contrast colour 1, the one that comes next, I think, is that green. And I just think that's going to look wowzers together. Is that radioactive? So thank you so much to Tabitha for helping me and reassuring me that the colours I was picking from were going to be okay and would work. And thank you to Verity for throwing me that curveball, which everyone then went wild for on Facebook and Messenger, and suggesting putting the green in there. I didn't then run it by Tabitha again, but I would be really interested to see what you think, Tabitha, as this goes on. I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. The pattern is so well written, and I can really genuinely say that because you don't have a picture to go by, you've got no reference point to figure it out, to try and figure out what on earth's happening. I did have to frog it back once because I misread the pattern and I missed out some of the eyelet lace. And then when I sort of opened it out and looked at it, and I'll try and do it like this, and you get that, you see almost square shape there. When I opened it out and looked at it, I thought, right, okay, there's radials there, so I need to do that. I pulled it back, started again, and I'm absolutely loving it. I cannot wait for clue 2, even though I've not finished clue 1. The pattern is so clear and well written. There are options. There are options about swatching. There are options about what needles to use. You can start on DPNs, then move to circulars. I think a lot of us actually just started on Magic Loop, which is one circular needle, because we found it too fiddly. I mean, I found it too fiddly. I'm not very good with DPNs. And a couple of others said the same. But the point is there are options. And also she took some of the stress out of worrying about how much yarn to use, because it does say on there, row gauge makes a difference. It's not the stitch gauge that does the width, it's the length of your stitches that makes the difference for how much yarn you use. So row gauge is the most important thing here, which makes sense because in a pattern like this, it's not knit to however many inches wide. And obviously if you've got tiny stitches, then you'll be using more yarn. This is a set number of stitches, so that doesn't matter. What matters is the length of the stitches, because if they're too squidged down, then to get to the same number of inches, you're going to be using more yarn, and vice versa. So for that suggested to me that doing a tension square or a gauge swatch was really important, because it would tell me what size needles to use, because the pattern does use up every last scrap of meterage. There's 425 meters in each of these balls, and or skeins, and the design uses 1275 meters. So literally every scrap. And I was just like, ugh, I haven't got any more of Verity standard stocking stash that I can skein up and use to do a tension square with, because it's the same base, I could do that. What do I do? So what I ended up doing was I used some of the green and I did a half swatch, and Tabitha had put on there, you know, I showed you how to block last week, and I showed you that you soak, one of the ways is that you soak it in the wool wash and pin it out and let it dry, and it dries overnight. Tabitha suggested that actually you could just use a steam iron, so you could pin it out to the shape you want on the blocking square. I haven't got any footage of this, so I can't do nifty cut ins and outs and show you, I'm afraid. Just have to imagine it. Pin it out to the stitch definition you want, and then use the steam function on your iron and steam it until it's damp. Then let it dry for 10 minutes, take the pins out, let it relax for 10 minutes, and then measure. I did that, and I was coming up with too few rows for the 2 inches, so I would have needed more yarn to get the same length. So I am doing it on the recommended needle size, which is very odd for me, of 3.75mm. And I'm using just one circular at the moment, but that is not going to be a long enough cord to carry on doing magic loop for the whole of this shawl, I'm sure of it. And so when I wasn't sure what size needles I was going to need to use or what the shawl would require, and it said DPNs or circulars, and then it said 2 circulars, and then it said you might want to knit 2 identical pieces at the same time for some of the clues. I was thinking, what on earth, what on earth? So I ordered a job lot of the needles, but I'm really pleased I managed to cast on. There was a cast on party on YouTube, which was really fun, except for it wasn't on YouTube, it was on Zoom. And for some reason, some of us were sat on YouTube because it said it was on YouTube, but that was fine. We just sort of sat there chatting amongst ourselves, casting on, laughing about dropping stitch markers in our laps, talking about who'd swatched and who hadn't swatched. Incidentally, I didn't cast off that swatch and cut the yarn. I cast off and then pinned through the last loop with the yarn still attached, steamed it, got my gauge, and then unravelled it and put it back. So I definitely have the right yardage still, which was great. And I messaged Tabitha and I said, well, what happened? Turns out we were on the wrong platform, the 10 of us, but we had a great time. And there's going to be another party as well, live, where you just get little grids of people's pictures and everyone's casting on together. So watch out for that. If you fancy joining in with this, I would highly recommend it. Buy the pattern, cast on clue 1. You are not too late to join in. By the end of it, each week, the pattern in your library will have a little refresh symbol that say updates available. You click on that and it gives you the next clue. And by the end of it, of course, you will have the whole shawl pattern. I can't rave about it enough. The pattern is so well written. I can follow it and I've got an idea of what it's meant to look like, even though I don't know what it's meant to look like. As I said, if you don't have a picture to reference it to, you can't figure anything out. So yeah, really well written, really great pattern support and advice. Loved that Tabitha took the time to actually respond to my plea for help for the colours. I think that's really, really lovely. She's a top woman. My third whip is this. Yep, I am making a swatch. I have been watching the wonderful Katie from Inside Number 23, and she has been knitting all the baby things. And with several babies due in my life imminently, I want to still knit for them, which is what I would have done before. I would have done it if... I'm really struggling with how to phrase this. I would have automatically knit for all these babies coming into my life, no question about it. And I really want to still do that, even though obviously I don't have Lara with me. I'm still me. I still am very pleased for everyone else having babies, and I still want to knit for them. I love knitting baby things. So Katie has knit the Beyond Purpurium shawl, cardigan, and it is just so cute. She's done it in hand-dyed green with a cream contrasting border, and she's put little ladybird buttons on it, and it was just so cute. And I'm not going to say which of the babies that is going to be arriving shortly this will be for, but I am going to do the Purpurium as well, and I'm going to be using a cream border. And I have this scrummy, if I can get hold of it, because it's all unwinding itself. No! I have this scrummy blue speckled Rico Baby DK, and it is 50% acrylic, 50% polyamide, which means really importantly, it is machine washable. Perfect for baby spit. So yeah, I've got a couple of balls of that. I'm not going to tell you what size I'm going to do, because actually then if the person this is going to be for is watching, then they'll work out it's for them. So I'm not going to say the size I'm going to do. I'm doing one of 2 sizes, folks. So that with the cream border, I think is just going to look scrumptious for a boy or a girl. See, one of the mums to be in my life knows what she's having, and one doesn't. So, but look, this would work for a boy or a girl, and we all know how totally adorable my Lara looked in blue, don't we? She looked much better in blue than pink. And pink clashes with baby skin. Babies are so pink themselves. Oh, but she looked gorgeous in blue, my little lady. So knowing that, neither of you, if you're watching, will have a clue which one of you it's for. Ha! Have fun working that one out. Oh God. If you don't like it, then message me and I'll do it for the other one. Yeah, or no one. I just have a couple of acquisitions to share with you. This was given to me by Lara's godmother, Stace, who had bought it with the intention of making something for her daughter, for Lara's god sister. Quite Alice in Wonderland, isn't it? And she said, "Oh, can you do anything with this?" And I don't know, I must admit, I was a bit like, oh, I wanted to be making things for my little girl. But I would have always made things for my goddaughter anyway. I made them both, my goddaughter and my godson, little Christmas tops to wear last year. And I've got to get started on this year's as well. But I'm going to do, I think, this one, A and H, with the little puff sleeves and the little frill on the pinafore, for her to wear at some point. I'm going to find some funky fabrics for her. It's not going to be all floral, definitely not. My goddaughter is not a floral girl. She's all up in everything. She's amazing. She's just as feisty as my daughter is. So yeah. So I'm thinking I'm going to do A and H, which is actually the one shown in the picture. Although, I don't know which one I'm going to do. But that's going to happen soon. So that will be happening at some point. Probably in the new year. But also, this arrived. I had bought this. How fabulous is that? I had bought this with the full intention of using it to make project bags for Halloween. Because I just love how shiny it is. But, can you see the actual fabric itself is satiny? I just don't think that's right for project bags. And this is where I'm going to be inundated with messages, isn't it? No, please make us project bags. No, because what I've decided to do is I've decided to make my goddaughter a little skirt to wear for Halloween. She was dressed up as a pump. Was she a lobster last year? I think my godson was an octopus. And I think my goddaughter was dressed as a crab. Sorry for her. My godson just looked happy as anything, like an octopus. He's just got the most amazing grin. And my goddaughter, I thought, oh, you poor little thing, being dressed as a crab. My poor girl. So I'm going to make her a super cute little skirt. And in fact, I've got 2 meters of this, or 1.5 meters of this. I've got a lot of this. I could potentially do matching bits for my goddaughter and Lara's godmummy. Oh, I could also make a little... Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's not happening now. Do you know what's going to happen? I'm going to try my hand at doing a waistcoat for my godson and a skirt for my goddaughter. And that, folks, is everything. Finally, my coffee has gone cold. My bags under my eyes are like suitcases. I haven't packed my suitcase yet for tomorrow and I'm leaving in less than 12 hours. I've still got to upload this, edit it and export it ready for tomorrow. Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm starting off by driving up to Birmingham to catch up with an old friend for a late lunch, and then I'm continuing my journey to North Wales where I'm staying at a gorgeous B&B on a farm, and the weekend I'm going to Chester Wool for their open weekend. Then after that I'm driving up to Scotland to stay with my dad for a few days. We're going to do loads of Lara walks, and I'm ending the week at Perth Fibre Festival. I am going to be, if anyone's going, please come and say hi to me. That would be amazing. It'd be great to meet you. I'm going to be at the gin knit night on the Friday night. I'm going to be at the festival all day on the Saturday. I'm going to be at the knit social with the meal at the hotel on the Saturday night, and I plan on returning to the festival on the Sunday as well. Amazingly, I was tagged by Eva with the hashtag People of Perth Fibre Fest, which is just, or Yarn Fest, which is 18, which is just, that's just blown my mind. If I felt like a proper podcaster in episode 4, I definitely do now. That's just wow. Thank you. Thank you. Rather excitingly, she said if she'd known before, she'd have got me a lanyard to wear, which is like, wow, this is a real thing, a proper podcaster. yeah, I'm super excited about that. I'm super excited to pick up the new surprise colourway, which is being dyed by our lovely Amy of Stranded Dye Works, who is a fellow South of England podcaster. She is a yarn dyer and I just love her stuff, love her podcast. I'm actually hoping to meet up with her and introduce myself and say hello face to face, rather than just being this sort of logo on Instagram, sort of stalking her, which would be super cool. I'm also hoping to be brave enough to say hi to Ellie of Skein Deer Knits. I would have loved to have done her class, but I'm not. Yeah, so that's happening. And then I am travelling back down via the north of England, where I'm going to hook up with someone for lunch again, who I've met recently because of my journey with Lara. I've met some amazing people on this journey. They really are the kindest, most beautiful people. So we're going to hook up for lunch and chat and just... yeah, it's going to be special. And I'm hoping to also drop in an old friend in the Lincoln area as well on the way back too. I did message her about this, but she hasn't got back to me, so we'll see. And then I will be heading back down, if I can, somewhere in the middle, squeeze in a visit to Countess Blaze, who is based in Manchester. Then I'm totally doing that as well. So there will be no podcast next week. There will be a bumper one the week after, because I will have finished objects, I will have whips, I will have new design releases, I will have the feedback from Chesterwool and my Lara Walks in Stirling and Perth Fibre Fest. I'm probably going to split it into 2 different episodes. I haven't quite decided on that yet. But so no podcast next week. The shop is shut. It's on holiday mode until I get back, and it will relaunch with loads of Halloween themed goodies and autumnal goodies for you when I get back in mid-September. Those of you who are signed up to the knitting classes, I cannot wait to meet you on the 16th. Just bring yourselves, bring some money for a coffee and a piece of cake, and we will have such a ball together. People who've watched the last episode will remember I said there would be baking on this episode. The reason being is the Great British Bake Off started not last night, but the night before. And I have decided to do a bake along with a friend of mine. So what that is we're just going to pick one thing from each episode and we're going to have a go at baking it ourselves. And I had a go at the self-portrait in biscuits, and here it is. Well, it is. It's a self-portrait in biscuits, because a self-portrait of me with biscuits would be me having eaten all the biscuits, right? I'm going to bake Grantham gingerbreads with pineapple. I haven't done it yet. I will put pictures up. Do keep an eye on the YouTube channel. I'm taking my camera and tripod away with me and my laptop, so I will hopefully be able to do some vlogs and share some little snippets on Insta stories and on the Facebook page, and possibly on the YouTube channel as well. So until the middle of September, I wish you all a very, very crafty couple of weeks. I hope if you've got little ones going back to school that all goes smoothly and you make the most of the extra crafting time. I hope the weather's kind to you. Whatever you've got planned goes smoothly. I wish you the very best of health. Do join in the chatter in the Ravelry groups. Do let me know what you thought of the episode. I'll see you next time. Bye.